if a worker becomes ill at work or is unable to work either any longer or for a particular period, everybody knows that you just go along to your doctor, fill out the certificate to apply for illness benefit, which is payable to you in those circumstances. But what many people don't realise is that in order to qualify, even if your doctor certifies you, that in order to qualify for illness benefit, you must have a certain amount of contributions paid. Now, the rule, generally speaking, is you must have at least 104 contributions. That's 2 years, 252s, 2 years contributions paid. And in addition to that, you must have 39 either paid or credited in the second last year before the year in which you apply. So suppose you're applying in 2025, you'll have to have these 39 paid or credited contributions in the year 2023. Now, of those 39 paid and credited contributions, 13 of them at least will have to be paid. Now, if you don't fall into those categories, there are other options as well, which are quite complex. There are other contribution options, which are quite complex, and I won't go into them today. But if anybody has any queries on them, I'll gladly answer them. Now, the type of stamp that qualifies are only AE, H, and P stamps. Any other stamps would not necessarily qualify. Now, obviously, if somebody goes on illness benefit, they can't work. But however, if they've been 6 months on illness benefit and they want to do some work, they can apply to the department for partial capacity benefit. Partial capacity benefit is, if you're sanctioned for it, it's something that will replace the illness benefit, which you can have in addition to whatever you're earning from work. Now, partial capacity benefit, the amount you get, the percentage of your illness benefit you get will depend on your medical condition, and you'll be assessed on that. If you're assessed as having a profound medical condition, the chances are you'll get your full illness benefit. If you're assessed as severe, you'll get 75%, and if you're assessed as moderate, you get 50%. A very important thing to remember about illness benefit, and this is a relatively recent thing, it's not indefinite. You will not be able to stay on illness benefit for life. The position is that you can claim illness benefit for a period of 2 years if you have at least 5 years contributions paid. That's 552s, 260. However, if you have less than 5 years, if you have less than 5 years contributions paid, you need to have at least 104, at least 2 years contributions paid. And if you have those 2 years contributions paid, but less than 5 years, you can get illness benefit for 1 year. As I say, if you have 5 years contributions paid, you get it for 2 years. If there's between 2 years and 5 years paid, just 1 year. Now, people often wonder what happens when the 2 years comes to an end and you still are unable to work, and your illness benefit will be cut off and the department will inform you accordingly. Well, what the option people have in a situation like that is to apply for invalidity pension. Now, that's something that would, if you get it, it'll last, subject to reviews now and then by the department, but generally speaking, it'll last up to the age of 66. Now, there are very specific requirements to qualify for an invalidity pension. You must have suffered whatever incapacity that you suffer for at least 12 months. And you must have, and there must be a fairly definitive prospect that you won't be in a position to go back to work for at least another 12 months. Now, of course, there are exceptions to that. If somebody suddenly becomes permanently incapable of work or something like that, that means they wouldn't have been incapable for 12 months. For example, suppose somebody gets a heart attack, etc. Well, that situation is catered for. That's also a criterion, a medical criterion. Now, in addition to qualifying medically, there are also certain contribution conditions. And the contribution conditions are that you must have 260 contributions paid, that's 5 years. And in addition to that, you must have 48 contributions, 48 paid or credited in the last or second last year before you apply. In other words, if you're applying for an invalidity pension today, this is 2025, you must have that 48 paid or credited contributions in year 2004 or 2003. Incidentally, you can also apply for, if you feel that you're on invalidity pension, you feel you might be entitled to do some work, you can apply for partial capacity benefit, as I've explained in relation to the illness benefit. Also, people on invalidity pension often wonder if they can go into an educational course, or if they can do a training course, maybe to retrain them for different type of work when they recover, hopefully. Well, the position there is that yes, you can do that, but before you do it, before you engage in any work or training or education, you have to get written permission from the department. And that's not as big a deal as possible. It's just a matter of writing to the department. They'll do the assessment, and they're quick enough in sending that letter. Now, the next big question is, suppose you don't have the contributions, either for invalidity pension or illness benefit. Or suppose you've been on illness benefit and you're not bad enough to medically qualify for invalidity pension at that stage. What are your options? Well, there is another option. Then you can apply for something called disability allowance. Now, the difference between disability allowance and invalidity pension is, or the difference between disability allowance on the one hand and invalidity pension and illness benefit on the other hand is, disability allowance, you don't need any specific amount of contributions, but you have to pass a means test. You know, your means can't be above a certain amount. Any income of either yourself or your spouse is assessed against you. Any property you own or your spouse owns is assessed against you. You can, however, work and earn up to €165 per week when you take off PRSI payments, union dues and pension contributions. Not PAYE tax now, that's not taken off. But if you have, say, gross income of €200 and your union contributions, your PRSI contributions and the other contributions, you can deduct those from the 200. If you come in at 165 or less, you can work away while you're on disability allowance. There's also, if you have capital or property, there's also a very severe means test on capital. But for people claiming disability allowance, the first 50,000 capital is ignored anyway. So that's something that people ought to know. Now, what happens if you fail on all three? Or what happens, well, more importantly, if you apply for, we'll say, invalidity pension or disability allowance, you're going to be waiting for a while because the department has become, unfortunately, very slow in adjudicating on those things. And what do you do in the meantime? Well, you can apply directly to the Department of Social Welfare for something called Supplementary Welfare Allowance. Now, that is pretty severely means tested, but if you can prove that you have no means, etc., no income coming in, and satisfy that particular means test, you can. If you're waiting for invalidity pension or disability allowance, you can receive that money, the supplementary welfare allowance, in the meantime. Now, if you qualify, let's say, for invalidity pension or disability allowance, and if you qualify, say, for disability allowance, and your money is backdated to the time you made the application, whatever you've been paid under the supplementary welfare allowance system will be deducted from that. That's just something to bear in mind. Basically, there's another item called disablement benefit, whereby this arises from an accident or an injury suffered at work or related to work, where you can get a certain, the department will assess you at what percentage of disability do you suffer for the rest of your life. If it's less than 20%, it must be at least 15% disability. If it's less than 20%, you get a lump sum, but if it's 20% or more, you get what's called a disablement pension. So that's a lot of detail to take in a short time, and it's only a fraction of all the detail if you look into the various schemes. However, the Department of Social Protection is very good in answering questions in relation to all these schemes, and if you want, feel free to contact me about any aspect of any one of them. Please feel free to get in touch.